I'm Austin Simpkins, and this is the Accelerated Financial Advisor, the podcast that uncovers how standout advisors serve clients better, market smarter, and grow faster. This is episode 9 of our Client Success and Growth series. The Accelerated Financial Advisor is brought to you by Phantom Growth. Simply put, we act as a plug-and-play chief growth officer for advisors, handling prospecting, pipeline, and positioning so that you stay advising while your business grows. If predictable AUM growth is something that you're looking for, schedule a free strategy session with myself at phantomgrowth.com. That's F-A-N-T-U-M growth.com. Today, I'm joined by Shari Rash. She is the host of Everyone's Talking Money, a top 4 money podcast named by the New York Times with over 24 million downloads. She's also the founder of GWA Wealth, which is a virtual financial advisory firm that helps women tackle financial challenges and questions in a fun, comfortable, and non-nonsense way. Shari was named by Investment News as a 2024 Best Wealth Manager and Advisor Under 40. She's a mom of 4, 5 if you count her golden doodle Flash Rash, a lover of grand millennial decor, and spends way too much time in her minivan shuttling kids to their many activities. Thank you for joining us, Shari.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to feature you. We have been really excited to feature someone who also has their own podcast, especially one as successful as yours, and just hear more about your experience as a wealth advisor and all the great skills that you bring to the table.
Yeah, I would like to say that, well, actually, I did pretty much graduate college wanting to be a financial advisor. However, I took a detour, and usually I point that out because many of us stumble into this career versus going out and setting forth for it. But I graduated with a finance degree, wanting to be an advisor, did it for a very short period of time. Came to the realization that most people aren't dying to give their life savings to a 22-year-old fresh out of college. I was very disappointed when I learned that. So needless to say, I was not building my AUM very quickly. And then I had the opportunity to go to a different side of the industry as an internal wholesaler. And every advisor that's listening knows what an internal wholesaler is. So I joined Prudential Annuities and as an internal wholesaler, and then a year later got promoted to an external, and I was out in the field working with advisors, and I loved it. I really did. I loved it. I was at Prudential for about 7 years or so, then switched over to CLS Investments that is owned by Orion, and was there for the rest of my 13 years or so that I was wholesaling. And it was great. I mean, I worked with so many advisors across the country, and I learned what they did well, maybe some things I'd avoid or do differently. But I had so many lessons, but the voice in my head was still saying to me, this isn't exactly what you wanted to do. You want to have your own firm, your own practice, and be an advisor and actually help the end user.
What was that turning point that pushed you to go and do your own thing?
I realized I'm good at marketing. I come up with ideas, and as my ideas were being utilized by the company I was working for, and I was grinding. I mean, thousands of nights in a hotel room, tens of thousands of miles driven, and it just got to the point of you're putting all this effort in, wear and tear on your body, wear and tear on your family. You know, it's not easy when you have 2 young children.
Sure.
I had 2 young children at the time, sacrifices and all of that I'm like, if I'm going to be working this hard, I should be doing it for myself.
Sure. Yeah, that's a lot of work. And so then you just said, I'm going to go all in. How did you get those clients to start out? Probably had a little hesitancy after starting out in your 20s and having such a rough experience.
Well, I knew that the way to start was to acquire a book. To start from scratch was going to be impossible. It would take years, as everyone knows, years to build up to the income that I was leaving. So I knew I had to purchase a business, and I had the profile of who I wanted to buy my business from. I had that person in my head. And I knew what broker dealers I wanted to go to because I got a peek behind the curtain there. And I went and I visited an advisor that wasn't too far from my house. So he was like a meeting. I could just like a filler meeting on my calendar that I could just say, yep, I have a meeting. And I knew he wasn't going to do much business with me because he self-managed, but nice guy. Just went there and was chatting with him, and it's like, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, I'm looking to exit. I want to focus more on the OSJ, and I want to sell my book, sell my clients. And I just said, do you have a buyer in mind? Well, no, I don't. And I said, well, can I buy it? Can I buy your book of business from you? And it
Wow.
was that part was the easiest part of it, which is usually that's the hardest part for everyone that's acquiring a book of business.
Yeah.
But that was the easiest part. And yes, I ended up acquiring his clients, and it was his clients only. So my brand, my business, how I ran the business, I designed all of that myself, which was fantastic because that gave me a foundation income right away that I could really build from, and also like some runway that I could make some mistakes, try some things out. And I still had the clients, the AUM to that supported me for a while.
What does that look like when you buy a book of business? Is it like a one-time flat rate, or is there like residual continual like benefit to him? How does that work?
So you can really set it up any way you want. We did a portion, based on the type of business it is. Managed money is worth more than commission-based business. Is it so that revenue gets a multiplier? So essentially every client was valued, and they were assigned a value based on the accounts that they had and all of that, and we added it all up. And part of it I financed through the broker dealer, and part of it was seller financed. So I just Venmoed him every month for a while.
Wow, I have not heard of that before, but like it's a potential strategy for doing a lot less marketing and finding have you done that again since, or would you?
I would, but it's really got to be right. I've had some opportunities, and I my clients are fantastic. I'm virtual, as you mentioned in my intro. So I also acquired these clients in March of 2020. So if everyone remembers March of 2020, that's when COVID started. So not only am I acquiring these clients at this time, I only got to meet with one couple face to face before everything was shut down and we couldn't go anywhere, do anything. And I lived in a part of the country that was super restrictive at that time. Well, really for all of it. So I'm like, okay, these clients are used to like kitchen table meetings. They're not even used to going to an office. They're used to the advisor going to them and sitting at their kitchen table for 2 hours. Now I need to, not only am I completely different from him, I now can't see them. We have to create this relationship on Zoom or on the phone. And we did it. And they trusted me, and they trusted him. So in turn, they trusted me. And it was a very nice transition. My clients are fantastic, and I still work virtually with them to this day, which is great because that's a way more efficient way to operate. And they realized Shari answers the phone when I call. She replies to my emails. It doesn't matter where she's sitting when she's doing all this. I don't even know the difference. My money's still getting managed. She's telling me everything that's going on. So why does she need to sit at my kitchen table? We're still doing the chit chat and all of that stuff when we talk.
Not like
So,
you need
I
to
mean,
check vitals or anything. So yeah.
right, right. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie though. You miss out on a little bit of that touchy feely. Like there is a element of it missing, but 90% of it's there. And they also realized, oh my gosh, I don't have to clean my house. I don't have to make sure the dog's in his crate, like for my financial advisor meetings either. So it really was a win-win for all of us. So I'm not going to lie, I have it good. I have a flexible schedule. Have 4 kids that take up a lot of my time, so I can plan meetings around their activities. I work from home. So life is good. Life is easy. It felt like a retirement in a way from wholesaling and the grind that I had. So I've had opportunities to buy other books, but it was like the staff, the building all came with it. And when the building is not close enough to where I live, and they're in there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And like that just doesn't work for my life. So I've said no to opportunities just because I'm like, it's not worth make my life becoming a lot harder. Or the products that they use, like were total misalignment with what I do. So there would have to be some change going on with the clients that it would have to be a very good fit and really complement my life right now for me to acquire another business. I'm definitely open to it, but I've actually also I've been on the selling side of the business as well. So I've sold a portion of the book that I acquired to another advisor and it fit his business better, the products that he was using. Because over time, as I developed the relationships with the clients, we, moved from advisor managed to third party money management, which is something I believe in, retirement income planning. So as the clients engaged more with me, we started to make some shifts. Financial planning is a big focus of mine. So a lot of the clients shifted into financial planning as well as investment management. And there were just some clients that just didn't. Either they were non-responsive, they were like, weren't an active participant in their finances, they didn't see the need for financial planning. And I'm like, we don't fit, but there's another advisor that they could fit perfectly with. And so I actually did end up redirecting some of my clients to another advisor. So I've also been a seller in addition to a buyer of a business.
Wow, lots of experience there. Sounds like efficiency has been like a crucial part of your business, taking on so many new clients and then having to figure out how to manage your life and day to day. What things are you doing to stay efficient with those clients? And you also mentioned things that you hate that other financial advisors were doing initially when you were looking into the space. So curious to hear your thoughts there on efficiency and things that you do different compared to other advisors.
Yeah. So as far as efficiency goes, being virtual is a big part of the efficiency. If we have a 9 a.m. meeting, I'm ready at 8:55 for it. I prep ahead of time, but I'm ready at 8:55. So it's not as if I have to drive 45 minutes to their house and then we have our niceties for 30 minutes. Then we do, another 45 minutes of financial talk, some more niceties, and then I drive 45 minutes home. So that 9 a.m. meeting, I'm really not getting done till noon. When you work virtually, if your meeting's from 9 to 10, you're finished at 10. Because they're also scheduling it where it fits into their life. So that's created a lot of efficiency for me just working virtually. I also, like I mentioned, I believe in outsourced money management, third-party money management. I am one person and I know what I'm good at, and I'm good at speaking with my clients. I'm good at getting to know them personally and the way they think about money, the way they feel about money, what their goals are, planning wise. So I know I cannot track what the stock market is doing at every minute of every day. I do not track individual stocks. So by outsourcing, and then in turn, I do the due diligence on the money managers, that helps me create efficiencies because then I have my strategies that are go-to for the different situations my clients are in, whether they're in retirement income or growth, what have you. And I then know those strategies inside and out, and I do my due diligence there. So I'm not spending my days researching.
Sure.
So that's also helped a lot. And also through my financial planning, I'm a big fan of Google Docs. So I hate CRMs. I hate putting notes into CRMs. I do not keep good notes that way, but I keep great Google Docs. So when I work with a client, especially with financial planning, I use one Google Doc, and that's our lifeline for our entire relationship. And I share the Google Doc with the client, and then there's every note that I have. I also use, I have Loom that I use during my Zoom meetings that it records the entire meeting. It records the meeting and then comes up with the action items, the summary of the meeting, and the notes. And then I also send the client the video of our meeting. So again, they can go back and replay. What did she say about this? Or how long was this going to take? Or what?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how she phrased the investments. They can go back and replay the meeting. So then it saves them a phone call or an email to me to get their answer. But it also helps me it also allows me to stay in. It feels like I'm in front of them a lot more than I really am too, because they have all the info, but they're seeing my face, they're hearing my voice. and I'm explaining it to them. So that helps to strengthen the relationship as well. So those are some of the efficiencies I've created. I'm sure there's more. Calendly, I use Calendly. In my email signature, there is schedule a call with me, and that's where they schedule their reviews, their financial planning meetings, their Zooms, whatever they have. And if someone says like, can we have a phone call? I just reply back, schedule a meeting, versus playing phone tag of like trying to get a hold of them getting a hold of you. Just
Yeah.
schedule a meeting and then we're both there. Even if it's 3 days later, we at least know we're connecting at that time and the question is getting answered.
Yeah. I love that. It was great to hear all your tech stack there too and what you're doing. It's so easy to try to complicate things and think we need all these CRM tools. And a lot of the times, these clients don't want to have to all have all these logins. Like a Google Doc might just be exactly what they need. So really cool to hear that. And then tell us about your podcast and what that's been like for you, and if that's been a client acquisition method for you or what outcomes you've seen from it.
So I created a podcast called Money Chic in maybe the end of 2020, possibly the beginning of 2021. I don't completely remember now, but I created that podcast as a way to just stay in front of my clients. That was just because, again, it was COVID. I'm not driving to their house. I'm not sitting at their kitchen table. So it was just another way for me twice a month to touch all of my clients. And they, again, can hear my voice. So it feels like they're seeing me and talking to me more than the handful of times a year that we're reviewing their accounts and their investments. So I created that podcast with the initial intention of just staying in front of my clients. Honestly, I stayed with that focus for a little too long. I should have adjusted and made it more client acquisition maybe 6 months down the road, but I didn't. It was just my way to stay in front of my clients. I also had 2 newborn twins, so my mind was a little fuzzy during that period of time.
Sure. And that's insane. What would you just talk on topics that were relevant to them or like news trends? What were those things you'd go through?
Yeah. So again, with creating efficiency, I used this company. It's called Third Wheel Media, and they produce podcasts, but they also give you a producer, and also they serve as a co-host. But the beauty of it is that they can talk the finance talk. So they only work with certain types of careers. So I believe it was like financial advisors, realtors. So they knew they stayed in their wheelhouse. And so every month I would record 2 episodes with my producer, and I had him for the entire time that I had the podcast. And we would bang out 2 episodes in an hour, and then that would be it. And then they would produce it and they would post it for me. And it was super easy. But then over time, I started to feel like I was just going through the motions with it. And I'm like, okay, it's like 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later. Now are we getting to the point that this is now just a hobby? Like I'm not making any money doing this. It's a cost center. I'm not bringing on any clients because that wasn't necessarily my focus. So I pivoted and then I started to self-produce it and come up with my own topics and go from there. So then I hired someone to help me like with the focus of the podcast and also to help me get onto other podcasts. And that's where I got onto, which really it's amazing that I did given the size of the podcast, but that's where I got onto the Everyone's Talking Money podcast. And Shauna Game was the host of the podcast at that point in time. And so she interviewed me and we hit it off and we stayed friends. And she continued she helped me with my podcast then. And then about a year later, she said, I'm looking to exit the podcast. She was doing it for like 10 years. I'm looking to exit the podcast. Will you buy it from me? Will you take over the podcast? And I would have been a fool to say no, to be honest. So that's how I got into Everyone's Talking Money. So I'd love to take credit for the 24 million downloads. I'm a part of that, but not Shauna did most of the work. So Everyone's Talking Money now is now my podcast. We were co-hosting for a period of time. Now, then it became completely mine. Now I'm interviewing, put out 3 episodes a week. It's a lot of work, but it's great. I interview thought leaders and people that have to do with money or don't have to do with money at all, but it's more mindset. So it's all about your relationship with money. So that is now how I'm getting my name and my voice out to
Oh.
tens of thousands of people.
Do you have to do hardly any other marketing than that? Or is that pretty much filling your pipeline?
I do a lot of blogging and SEO. So Google is really how people find me. Referrals are obviously the biggest source of new clients, but then second would be people finding me through Google. So I blog very specifically. My client focus is very specific. I work with single women, either single, divorced, widowed, and the LGBTQIA plus community. So I blog for those two populations. So that's how a lot of people will find me as well.
Amazing. What would you say that percentage split is, like podcast to SEO or um, blog?
I would say, depends on the month.
Yeah.
I would say it's like 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's definitely a unique type of acquisition method. I don't think a lot are using that. And I know with SEO, it takes a little bit of time to get there. Like, I'm sure you put in a ton of time to edit those blogs and also make sure that the keywords and the alt text is all right. So it's a long game play, but you've landed it. So good for you. That's not an easy marketing method.
It's not. It's, well, when you own a business, it's like you think you're just going to become the expert in what your business is, but you have to become an expert in 50 other things on top of it. So I really learned SEO and all of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, people find blog posts that I did years ago. So once it's there forever. So you do the work, you put it in, and then you never have to worry about it again because it's always there.
Well, it's brilliant and for our listeners too, if you don't understand how SEO works, it's like search engine optimization. What's someone searching in Google and how can you make your content be the most relevant so it pops up at the top? So in your case, if someone's Googling, LGBTQ financial based advisor, it's probably not something that a lot of people are putting content out for, like pairing LGBTQ with financial advisor, and so SEO is going to see that and bring it up to the top. So really cool that you've done it that way. Are there any other marketing strategies that you've tried or have maybe fallen flat or things that have worked equally well?
From my wholesaling career, especially with prudential annuities, I did 3 client seminars a week for my advisors. And I said, I will never do a seminar ever. So that's one thing I won't do. And I know if you do them right, they work. I saw a lot that did not work, the plate lickers and all of that. So I'm like, I'm never doing a seminar. Anything that, honestly, my rule is, and someone told me this very early on in my career, nothing on a weekend is really ever worth it. That's my rule. So if I have an opportunity for, I sponsored, and this was something I did that it was out of norm. I sponsored a conference for independent doctors. And then I was able to be a keynote speaker and all of that and have a booth. And that was like it was on a Saturday from like 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. And like my daughter was having a softball tournament like 45 minutes away. So I'm like, this cooks out that I can take her to her tournament, go to the conference, then hopefully pick her up if she keeps winning, pick her up from the tournament, catch a game. She ended up losing in the first round. That was not, it was out of my normal marketing and it didn't work. It did not work. It was a colossal failure. I didn't get one meeting, one appointment from it. And but it was a lesson. I went against everything that I stood for. I did something on a Saturday that took me away from my family. And I went outside of my normal market and I did something that I don't usually do and it didn't work. So it was a lesson of do what works and just focus on that.
Yeah, knowing your boundaries and how to stay within those. It's so hard, especially running your own company. You could work 120-hour weeks if you wanted to. Well, are there even 120 hours in a week? I'm sure there are, but you could find them. You could totally find them. No, that's great feedback because I hear that all the time. I'm going to start a webinar. I'm going to do a seminar. And, it's so hit or miss. It's so hit or miss. And so I feel like around what you've said, it's like find your flow, find what works for you, which works with your lifestyle, and keep at it and just keep working until you find something that works for what makes the most sense.
Got it. Yeah.
That. Well, is there anything that you would like to add about what you would say to yourself maybe 15 years ago starting out in your business? What would you do different, or what would you say to other advisors who might be in a similar spot where they're stuck not knowing what to do and how to grow?
So I would say niche down and focus on that niche. You can't be everything to everyone. And if someone goes to your website and they cannot tell who you work with, or it's like you work with everyone, that's not it. That's because I was so scared of, well, if I only say I work with women, then what about the men that, I can relate to and they'll feel out.
Yeah.
I should have niched down much more sooner than I did. And even women is too big of it's 50% of the population. That's too big. Like that's still not a niche, working with women. So you have to get very specific. And I just looked at who are some of my favorite clients and what qualities do they have. And that's how I got to where I did, and where can I make a difference and who's underserved. And that's how I ended up niching to where I am now.
I love that. What about the ones that you're saying no to? Like, I'm sure that's on everyone's mind. If I niche down, I'm saying no to someone. Do you feel like you're actually saying no to people, or what have been your findings?
So I'll still get meetings with married couples. I'll still have and as I'm talking with them, I'm thinking in my head, we're not a fit. We are not a fit. The reason why is and this might be a little controversial, so I'm sorry if anyone gets upset, but generally speaking, if I'm working with a husband and wife, the wife is very engaged, a new prospect. This is not true for my existing client base. For a new prospect, the wife is very engaged because she's the one that made the appointment, because she liked everything she saw about me that she found online, and her husband is not happy about this. And he's dragging his feet and his arms are crossed and his body language, and he's not near the computer, and I can barely hear what he's saying. And I can just say, this isn't going to work. I just know this isn't going to work. I'll still follow up. I'll still give my recommendations from the initial meeting, but I'm not surprised nor upset when I don't hear back from them. Because even if they said yes, I wouldn't be working with them for very long because it just wouldn't work. So I would say trust your gut. Just because you say no, no's sometimes open up to yeses in the future. And it's people that fit you better, fit your business better, fit your lifestyle better. So saying no just means there's another yes down the line. And if you say yes to everyone, then that you're not being true to yourself if you're saying yes to every single person that comes in front of you.
I love that. Like, flip that on its head, where it's like it's not saying no to other people. It's also you saying who you do and don't want to work with. That's a great way to look at that. Well, I appreciate all of your insights that you've shared, Shari. It's been really, really beneficial. I know that other advisors who are stuck thinking through different acquisition and marketing strategies they could try is a tough spot to be in. And so I'm sure that they've learned something here today just from hearing your experience. So I really appreciate your time being on here and talking more about everything. And I think that you're an incredibly trustworthy advisor, and I love how you're growing your business and you value your time and everything that you're doing there. So thanks for being on the podcast. And is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close out?
That's it. Check out Everyone's Talking Money. It's a lot about the money mentality around money, your relationship with money. So every episode is different. I guarantee you're going to take something away from every episode you listen to. So give me a follow there, like and follow me. And that really helps the podcast grow.
And where can they find you on LinkedIn under just your name?
Yep. Shari Rash, Shari.
Yeah, everyone go check out Shari's work and her podcast. Lots to learn there. Thanks again, Shari, for your time. I love that Shari shared this about her podcast. And I know a lot of financial advisors are a little bit hesitant about that. They might think, I don't have enough tech. I don't know how to do all these things. But when it comes to making a podcast, if you can just make something that is simple, that works for you. I love that Shari shared how she's finding what makes sense for her. You know, she did a seminar and found that just didn't work with her standards that she'd set for herself in her career, working on the weekends, whatever that is for you. But there's definitely ways that you can start a podcast or have some sort of marketing that brings leads to you. We do this with our podcast, and we can honestly say that the editing is fairly simple. We use Riverside.ai, and it has been an amazing game changer to the editing of podcasts, which before would take hours and hours per episode. So if that's something that you're looking into and you're overwhelmed by it, know that there are resources and tools available that can make it an incredible acquisition and pipeline filler for you, like it has for Shari. Shari is very impressive. She's ambitious. I love that she also sources out some of the things that she knows that she's not going to be able to dedicate the necessary time to. She mentioned that she's not constantly monitoring the stock market. And so working with someone who can do that. For her, it seems like she loves to work with clients. She loves that engagement and helping them to get the resources and whatever else they need to feel confident in the service that she's providing. And if that's how you feel about advising, and maybe you love the sales side and working with clients, but not necessarily the day-to-day work of managing, consider using a third party to source out some of those things that you don't want to do. I'm a big fan of that. Find the things that bring money to your pocket that no one else could do. The tools and the skills that require you and only you, and can totally provide what she needs for her clients. And so I hope to see a lot of other female advisors up and coming, because they are trusted and they're easy to engage with. And I know that women tend to do better in sales in general. Thanks again for listening. We love having you here and learning more from other advisors. Our goal is to constantly bring you new and updated advice that we gather from others that we interview. And if you are curious about being featured on one of our podcasts, please reach out to us. You can email us at austin@phantomgrowth.com. That's FANTUM growth.com.